Good afternoon and welcome to The Art of Composition. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. So I wanted to continue on and make another video demonstrating the difference between the rule of thirds and the harmonic armature. And I was on this website this morning, Jay Gordon, and I provided a link on my website along with one of his videos. The artist is demonstrating how to use the harmonic armature in a photo reference. So what I thought would be interesting is to show side by side the difference between the harmonic armature and the rule of thirds, because there is a relationship between the rule of thirds and the harmonic armature. The rule of thirds is derived from 1/3 and 2/3 divisions in the harmonic armature. And what you see on the right hand side is that rule of thirds grid. So there's nothing wrong with the rule of thirds, regardless of what you might find online of people downplaying it. And I used to downplay it myself, I fully admit that, but I don't do it anymore because once I learned the harmonic armature, I realized there was a relationship between the two. And you can't say one's not legit. You can't say the rule of thirds is not legit because it is legit. Because it's a derivative of the harmonic armature. It's a simplified version of the harmonic armature. But what I want to show today is how much information and how much creativity you can lose as an artist strictly using the rule of thirds and not building upon that. You can start out with the rule of thirds, that's fine, but it's important to build upon that concept. And I want to just demonstrate side by side how you can expand on that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline a few things in yellow here. Obviously, you have the 1/3 division here vertically, and then the 2/3 division, and then the horizontal 1/3 and 2/3 as well. That is your rule of thirds, and that is derived from divisions here on the harmonic armature, right here, and then across where these diagonal lines intersect. That's 1/3 and 2/3, and 2/3 is, I believe, right here, if I'm not mistaken, and then your 2/3 horizontally is right there. Okay, so that's the grid. That's how the rule of thirds comes about from the harmonic armature. And I'll just draw that out like that. So you can see the relationship between the two. So let me get rid of the rule of thirds on the left-hand side. The problem with the rule of thirds is it doesn't consider diagonal lines in the composition. And let me show you what I mean. Because you're missing all the diagonal lines in a rule of thirds grid, you're not getting all these diagonal lines right here. And I did do a video on this morning, so you can watch that as well. You have all of these diagonal lines coming into play that frame in the subject and mimic some of the angles in the subject matter. And this is why these diagonal lines are so important, not only just for the diagonal lines, but it also creates additional divisions that you don't get with the rule of thirds. For example, you have the center here, which is the underbelly of the horse. That's your midpoint. That's the center of the square, right? You can have this 1/3 division vertically here, like I'm showing right here, but you're not getting these angles right in here. And if you notice, if I drop a diagonal line from this top left corner intersecting at this point right here, these diagonal lines, and bring it down, it's giving me this angle here. And these angles are important because they frame in the subject and they emphasize the musical ratio. The harmonic armature is related to the musical scale, and Juliet Aristides talks about this, I think, in Chapter 2 in Classical Painting Atelier. I'm not going to get into all that today, but it's really important because there is a relationship. But also you have divisions here as well. You have a vertical division here. You have this diagonal line being played out here. And again, on this side of the armature, I can drop a diagonal line here, have it intersect at these two diagonal lines and bring it down, and it gives me that angle there. So you can see just by adding a few diagonal lines and how the armature works, you can fit your subject better on the canvas relating to a lot of those diagonal lines and some of those additional divisions. Now, you don't have to go crazy with this, as I've said before, but you get the idea of how much information you're missing. Right over here, you don't have any of these horizontal lines being represented right here. You can't see that on a rule of thirds grid, but on a harmonic armature grid, sure enough, they're right here where these diagonal lines intersect. You have another one right here. And then if you drop a vertical, I believe it's right here, where this diagonal meets that vertical, gives me the bottom horizontal line. So you're missing a lot of information. My point today is that when you strictly stay with the rule of thirds, you're missing a lot of freedom and a lot of control in placement of your subject matter on the canvas. And that, depending on where you place it, will give you that relationship between the outer square or rectangle and what's inside. I hope this makes sense. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it, as always.